Another important week of fantasy hockey dominance is on tap for the upcoming 7 days of NHL action, which is why on the Monday episode of your daily source for fantasy hockey news, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, it's back to the old waiver wire specials with all the targets that you need this week. Big time bets. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You heard the music and you know what time it is. It's time for your 30-minute daily source for fantasy hockey, NHL news, and betting breakdowns, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Parlay King, Mr. Steele Rodin. And on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone, holding it down for the everydayers, Monday through Friday, making us your first listen every single day. Salute, much love, and thank you so much. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I think I say this every single Monday episode, Steele, but I get fired up after we have a few days in the barrel of hockey action. I feel like there's a lot going on right now, and I feel like there's also a number of very intriguing players that are starting to catch fire, and I want to get a piece of it before this holiday break, which really can turn the tables on both an NHL team's success and a fantasy GM. So let's rein it in. Let's throw the people a few more of our stud targets. I think we've been crushing it on these waiver wire Mondays. Also, the bets. I'm just going to let you have yours because you've had a nice weekend, to say the least. So I'm excited to get to Monday's 3-game betting board. Over to you, though. I know we have some same targets, but I think that might be a good thing. So who are you looking at for this upcoming week and why?
Yeah, many players to keep an eye out for this upcoming 7 days. 6 targets I'm going to be talking about on today's episode. First 3 I want to mention, all in the same bat. Tyler Seguin, Kirill Marchenko, and Matthew Knies. All 3 of these guys are rostered right now between 40 and 46%. So they are most likely available in your Yahoo fantasy leagues. Rostering percentage changes and varies on different platforms, ESPN especially. But Matthew Knies is a guy I'm definitely looking at for this upcoming week. He just comes back from injury, from concussion protocol, misses a few games. And what does he do? He goes out and gets a goal, the first goal of the game in crucial Atlantic Division against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and finishes with 2 points. He's a +2, even strength, 2 shots on net, played just under 20 minutes of average ice time. And Matthew Knies and the Toronto Maple Leafs have 4 games this upcoming week. Chicago Blackhawks on Monday, Nashville Predators, Washington Capitals, and Pittsburgh Penguins. So 4 games, all advantageous against lower tier teams, except obviously the Washington Capitals. And Matthews is back as well. Auston Matthews gets a couple of points in his first game back after missing 9 straight with a lingering upper body injury. He comes back and shakes off the rust like it's not even there. So 2 crucial factors for the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's number 1. 4 games on the schedule for them. Also, Tyler Seguin. You got to get a piece of what the Dallas Stars in this second line right now is doing, especially Tyler Seguin. 20 points in 18 games right now. He's got 5 points in his last 5, 43 shots on net. That second line of Matt Duchene, Tyler Seguin, they're playing some of their best hockey of their career right now. And we've seen some really good seasons from Tyler Seguin. So those 2 guys, Matthew Knies, Tyler Seguin, and then finish it off with Kirill Marchenko. Real quick, all 3 of these players have 4 games. The Dallas Stars play against Utah, LA, Vegas, and Calgary. And then the Columbus Blue Jackets do have a tough road 4-game stretch right now. Calgary Flames, Edmonton
Canadian road trip,
Vancouver Canucks, and Winnipeg Jets. So that's a little bit of a tough one to sell, but Kirill Marchenko has been pretty solid so far this season, racking up 23 points in 22 games.
You know how much I like targeting this Columbus Blue Jackets team as some really good week-to-week stream options. So this is a very nice segue, and I think you're going to talk about another Columbus Blue Jackets player near the end of the episode. But I also got to show some love to you. Were talking about how much you like that second line in Dallas. really starting to like the looks of that second line in Columbus. Cole Sillinger, Adam Fantilli, Kent Johnson on the wing, and that's my player once again. A couple of these players, Steele, I am going back to. I'll get to another one. I've got 2 forwards, 2 D, and I got a goalie mention. Kent Johnson, 68% on Fantrax. He won't be there. 17 on Yahoo and 33 on ESPN. You mentioned the main concern this week, which is that Canadian West Coast road trip, which is difficult for any team, let alone an East Coast American one. So that is obviously a caveat that has to be considered. But when I look at what Kent Johnson has done once he's returned, 5 goals, 6 assists in 8 games since coming back from injury, I want a piece of this. And I also really like what Columbus has been doing. I don't know if you know this, because I'll not even lie. The Columbus Blue Jackets are 10th in the NHL in scoring. This is a team much improved. And this is a team that, you know, everything that happened in the offseason, rest in peace to Johnny Gaudreau, such a terrible situation, but they are making the best of a bad situation. And look, they just made a move as well. Was it Jiricek is now a Minnesota Wild? Maybe we talk about that later in the week. But this is a team that is obviously kind of perhaps aiming for a bubble playoff spot. Are they good enough? I don't know. But right now, fantasy-wise, you want to get a piece of it. So Kent Johnson, some of that offense, if you're looking for a boost, you know, the peripherals aren't there. But like I said last week, Kent Johnson, even with those 4 games against a tough Canadian stretch, I think offensively, there aren't too many other names that are jumping off the page for me like his. So I like Kent Johnson this week, even with the tough sked. Plus, you're getting those 4 games.
Yeah, 4 games. I'm going to be talking about Adam Fantilli coming up after the break. But, I mean, this is impressive from the Columbus Blue Jackets offensively. Top 10 in goals for. However, a reason why they're still struggling is they are bottom 10 as well in goals against. So struggling on the defensive side of things in the blue paint. We're definitely going to have to touch on that trade between the Minnesota Wild and Columbus Blue Jackets. Obviously, it was clear that Jiricek did not want to play there. They find a way to trade him and get tons of picks in return, a first, a second, a third, and a fourth over the span of the next 3 seasons, as well as Damon Hunt on the blue line. So we're definitely going to have to break down that trade, probably on tomorrow's episode. And then after the break, we're going to come back and talk about some of these other waiver wire targets. I've got 3 options, all below 20% rostered, that are definitely available in your leagues.
I like it. I also got a same game parlay ready to ride. I got another couple of forwards, a couple of D-men, and an honorable mention in the cage. Speaking of trades, what about Scotty Wedgwood's opportunity? Let's get there. We'll talk about it right after the break. This is your 30-minute source for fantasy hockey. We get you in and out with everything that you need in 30 minutes or less, Monday through Friday. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $5 in a winning bet, $150 back in bonus bets if that bet hits. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, Steele, I'm hoping I get one of these for the Sunday Nighter, go Bills. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with that $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 wager hits. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Comedy, theater, music, and especially sports. You never want to have a stressful ticket buying experience and take the guesswork out of ticket buying with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download that Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time.
Mute button always gets me once a week. I thought I clicked it, clearly didn't. But anyways, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button. Leave a 5-star review, Flip, and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes throughout the week. Flip, continuing these waiver wire targets like we do every single Monday. I've got 3 more options. I want to throw it back over to you because we're going to talk about maybe a few of the same players on both ends, and then we'll get to big both of us, I believe, same game parlay, hopefully from the
Sure.
same game. So we're feeling each other there. But over to you, my friend. Who's your next target this week?
This is a player that we have not spoken about in a very long time. And Anders Lee has been one of those kind of fantasy pieces that, one year he scored 40 goals back in 2018, follows it up with 28, 20, 28 twice, and 20. Very steady goal scorer. And sometimes he can really, last year still he threw 176 hits. So at times, though, very streaky. He goes a week of red hot, and then he goes 3 weeks of doing nothing, it seems. And right now, though, it's the time to jump in. He's got almost 80 shots on net, shooting right around a 13% clip, which is, I think, what you can expect from him. But when you got 10 goals and 9 assists in 25 games, he's throwing the body around and putting up points in his last few. 5 points in his last 2 games, Steele, and getting a look on the top line right now. And I know like Barzal's out, but playing with Horvat, they're forming some chemistry. The New York Islanders are still a team that's going to struggle to score. But right now, take in the Islanders' schedule this week. Habs, Kraken, Sens. Obviously, the Hurricanes is another situation. But with Spencer Martin in there, they are a bit of a liability right now. So those are 4 really advantageous games for the New York Islanders. Anders Lee, 38% on Fantrax, 28 on Yahoo, and for some reason all the way up at 60 on ESPN. But that tells me he's out there to grab. And while he's scoring, I definitely want a piece of Anders Lee. So I like all of those angles, the schedule, the line deployment, and obviously his hot streak. Anders Lee right now this week, very attractive forward ad if you need that bump in offense, and he's throwing the body, so you'll take those bonus hits.
Yeah, it's been tough for the Carolina Hurricanes, especially Spencer Martin, back-to-back losses against the Florida Panthers. He played in both, 6 goals allowed, a couple of empty netters, I believe, but
perfect.
Absolutely got dominated.
Glad I added him last week.
Yeah. Look at those goalie ads I had in our weekly matchup. Alex Nedeljkovic and
I'd rather not talk about that, Steele. Yeah, thanks a lot, though.
Oh, we're going to talk about it later this week. We're going to have but yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly, the last time we talked about the New York Islanders and especially Anders Lee, you were giving them a bunch of CRAP out there for the poor play. Patrick Waugh, Sorokin, the Varlamov.
Yeah, I don't want to do that either. So
we're bringing it all up.
Let's keep it positive. Yeah, come on, Steele.
Anders Lee is definitely one of those guys who fills out the peripheral categories. But now that he's, popping off offensively, like we like to say on here, it just adds another bonus on top to what he does, especially in those categorical leagues.
Yes, sir.
3 players that I'm looking at, most likely actually majority in rostered available in your leagues out there. 3 guys: Samuel Girard, Michael Kessler-Ring of the Utah Hockey Club, and Adam Fantilli. All 3 of those guys are rostered right now in between 10 and 15% on Yahoo. So they are definitely available in your leagues out there, especially Adam Fantilli. He's still struggling offensively, only has 12 points in 22 games this year, but I like how he's getting involved in the play and other aspects of the game. He's throwing his weight around, 34 hits, 14 blocks, 44 shots on net. Obviously, we know that his rookie season got cut short with a very serious injury. He's still trying to find his confidence and footing in this level of the professional hockey. So I like, again, 4 games on the schedule for the Columbus Blue Jackets. They're actually up 3-2 right now as we speak against the Columbus Blue against the Chicago Blackhawks. And Johnson popped another one, so that goes well with your player out there. But 2 guys on the back end who I've actually added over the last couple of days or, in the last week: Samuel Girard, one of them, and Michael Kessler-Ring of the Utah Hockey Club. 14 points for Girard in 25 games. I like how he's filling out those peripheral categories as well. 27 shots, 44 blocks, and 25 hits. He's got 4 points in his last 5 games. And then over to Kessler-Ring, a kind of a bright spot on the blue line for this Utah Hockey Club. 12 points in 24 games, just like Girard, fills out those peripheral categories. 42 shots, 33 hits, and 21 blocks. So you look at those type of players, especially all 4 of those guys, or all 6 of the guys I mentioned besides Kessler-Ring, have 4 games this upcoming week. So a lot of great schedules with the players we're offering.
Sam Girard has been a player that I've had my eye on seemingly forever. He started his career very, I was very attracted to this player. Nashville, he's had some time. I know in his career, I think he was he was a second-round draft pick, spent some time in Nashville, back to Colorado. And this is a guy, though, that right now with Colorado, say what you will about them in the defensive end, they're putting up goals. They're putting up points. And 14 points by a D-man through 25 games, it has to be noticed. And I think that given the schedule this week, I'm trying to pull that up. Tabs are letting me down. They have, where is it right here? There it is, Sam Girard. Sabres, Canes, Red Wings, and Devils. Other than the Canes, which once again, they've had their struggles. Pretty advantageous week in 4 games. 41% Fantrax, 12% Yahoo, 20% ESPN. Love Sam Girard. And here's my final forward for you, Steele. And I know that you mentioned this player, I believe, last week, and probably for good reason because he has been scoring goals. But Adam Gaudette is now playing on the top line for the Ottawa Senators with Timmy Stutz and Brady Tkachuk. I don't know what's going on with the Ottawa Senators, and I got a take for you just once I finish with Adam Gaudette. You can tell me to reel it in, but I got one for you. Adam Gaudette on the top line with Stützle and Tkachuk, who are off to 2 very good fantasy starts. The team is struggling, but those 2 guys are getting theirs. I'm loving Adam Gaudette this week. You got to grab him if he's playing with those 2 guys. Sooner than later, Steele, this organization is going to have to take a really long, hard look at how this core is built. And I'm not trying to take away from the value of Batherson, Stutz, Tkachuk, or otherwise. But sometimes the mix of players and the brand of style of they play just doesn't go well together. And I'm not trying to say it's the be-all and end-all. But if this Ottawa Senators team continues to struggle like they have, they are going to have to take a real hard look at perhaps shaking up this core. I'm not saying get rid of everybody, but there might need to be a change of culture for this Ottawa Senators team who still look, after once again, you and I have stood by them and looked a little bit foolish, they look like a bit of a mess. So Adam Gaudette, fantasy-wise, I like it, but I'm starting to have real concerns with this Senators team long-term. They got to turn it around in a hurry, or another season will be pooched.
It's surprising that they haven't shaked things up already by this point. I mean,
right?
It's clear that there's something going on. You've changed coaches, you've changed management, you've changed the owner, and the same result continues to happen on a daily basis. The goaltending has been brutal for the last, I don't know how many years now. Again, lots of talent up front. You've got some good pieces on the blue line, and Jake Sanderson, Thomas Chabot, just things. They're not fitting. It's not smooth for this organization. So the one player that I've been seeing, it looks like Josh Norris might be on the hot seat. If they do shake things up, he could be on his way out of this Senators off the Senators roster. But yeah, Adam Gaudette, he is scoring goals. Not really much of a playmaker out there, but he is scoring goals at will right now. Those are all the waiver wire targets for this upcoming week. We're going to get over to big time bets very, very soon. One more target as well after the break. All of that and more coming up next. But first, this episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. The goal is so simple. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings pour in all season long. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, and you can win 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Kirill Kaprizov, 2+ goals. Adam Fox, 4+ shots. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly when you play that $5. You don't even need to win to receive the bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. One more target for this upcoming week, and then we're over to big time bets.
Yes, sir. And over to big time bets for you to take the lead. I am just going to sit back and listen. I've had an okay week. Pales in comparison to you, my friend. So I'm excited for our listeners to catch hopefully a little bit of piece of the Mr. Rodin luck over here. But Jake Walman is a player you and I have spoken about at length. And sometimes when we've been on here the last couple of weeks, especially, both of us, but me a little bit more, preaching about Jake Walman, and then he goes off in the nature that he has. This is a really good season already for Jake Walman, and let me just ream that off. 19 points in 22 games, 18 penalty minutes, 60-plus shots on net, 32 block shots, 18 hits, and he's eating way more minutes than he ever has. Top pairing in San Jose, top power play unit, and this is a team that's really actually starting to find some confidence, at least at the offensive end. I know I've mentioned him a bunch of times, and the ownership numbers are way up now. 82 on Fantrax, but Yahoo and ESPN, 55 and 58, you might still be able to catch a piece. This isn't a week-to-week ad for me, Steele. Jake Walman is going to continue to be that number one D-man in San Jose. The power play is much better. He's quarterbacking that. Minutes up, filling peripherals. This guy, if he's out there, you add him and you keep him for the rest of the season, in my opinion, unless he goes ice cold. So that was another one. And this week for San Jose, it's obviously a really tough week. Caps, Lightning, and Panthers. But I needed to mention it because I really do think even with that tough week, he's a guy that's going to bring a ton of value to your blue line. And the last one, Scott Wedgwood with Avalanche playing Sabres, Canes, Red Wings, and Devils, 4 games this week. Very likely that he gets a pretty advantageous start, likely against Detroit, maybe against New Jersey. Those are situations that right now, if you need some goalie love, Scotty Wedgwood might be your guy. Over to you, though, my friend. I'm very intrigued to see where your betting eye is looking. You got to follow up on this heater of a weekend. What are you looking at? Thankfully, only 3 games. I got a same-game parlay, but what's yours?
Same-game parlay as well. I'm hoping it's from the same game, so we battle together on Monday night. Massive week, 5-leg, 2+ point parlay. Absolutely smashed it. Great couple of picks out there. Recuperating some of the losses I've had over the last 2 weeks, so that's a big plus in my books right there. Same game parlay on Monday, and I'm only looking at one game. It was one game only. The Maple Leafs and the Chicago Blackhawks. You have to pin this one.
Me too.
Obviously, the New York Rangers Devils is pretty interesting as well, but those would be the only 2 I'm looking at. First pick of the night, and I'm thinking about even teasing this higher. Leafs, Blackhawks over 6.5 right now at plus 106. I believe that odd is going to change by the game time. If that odd does change, I'm teasing this one to the over 7.5.
Okay.
6 of the last 10 have gone over 7.5 goals. They like to score goals against each other, and I'm feeling this one right now. So currently over 6.5. Mike gonna tease this one up to over 7.5 if the odd changes. Second pick of the night, multiple options here. Auston Matthews is back in the lineup. He gets a couple of assists in the game against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yep.
There's a couple of options here that you can go with, so feel free to pick the one you like. But Matthews anytime goal currently at minus 105. You got 2+ goals at plus 550 and 2+ points as well is another option. You know I love the 2+ points. This is a game where he does very well in, and he wastes no time when returning to the lineup. He has 13 goals, 6 assists in 15 games when returning from injury. So he popped off right away. I like this option as well. So there's 3 options you can choose from with the player prop, Auston Matthews. And then I'm going back to the guy that's been doing it for the last couple of weeks for me, Mitch Marner, 2+ points as well. He is on a multi-game point streak right now. 6 out of his last 7 have been 2+ points. So he's been feeling it in the absence of Auston Matthews, but he also had 2 assists with Auston Matthews in the lineup. So he's been outstanding so far.
I'm going to keep this real simple. The Toronto Maple Leafs are playing some pretty good hockey right now. That needs to be said. This is one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and I'm not going to get started and get ahead of ourselves about playoffs, cup, or otherwise. But right now, until April, this team should be considered as the real deal. 14-7-2, some of the best goaltending options in the Eastern Conference if you're talking about depth. And again, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I will spit out this same game parlay. And I know there's no value with the Maple Leafs on the money line. It's going to be minus 300 or something crazy like that. But when you combine it into my other picks, I'm okay with it. First pick, Maple Leafs on the money line. They're going to get this done. They are a team that now should have the expectations, and Craig Berube is instilling in them that it's about every single night. This team, Steele, over the last decade has really kind of been that squad that plays letdown games against bad teams and really steps out against the good ones. And I think Craig Berube knows that that's got to change. Maple Leafs, money line, first pick, second pick. Connor Bedard has been a frustrating piece for the most part this season for fantasy owners, even though he does have 17 points in 23 games. He has 13 assists in 23. I think the Blackhawks are actually going to get theirs, and that plays into your over. So I'm going to go with Bedard, anytime assist, along with the Maple Leafs. I know that kind of goes against each other, but I could just definitely see this. 1 or 2 assists for Bedard, 3 or 4 goals for the Leafs, and this one ends like 5-2, maybe 5-3 for the Leafs because they've clearly been kind of letting that go at the end of games. And my lock of the night. Now that Matthews is back, 1 game under his belt, only 2 shots in that previous game. So, and considering that his previous 2, he had 3 and only 2, you're going to get a really good number for my lock of the night. 4+ shots for Auston Matthews against a Chicago Blackhawks team that you don't need me to read up these numbers defensively. It's not pretty. Either is their roster on the blue line. So lock of the night, along with those previous 2, Maple Leafs on the money line and Bedard anytime point. I'm loving my lock of the night. Auston Matthews, 4+ shots on net. I'm going to hammer that one big time, Steele. Might have to sprinkle this. Let's continue to have a big, big week.
What we're essentially saying is hammer the Maple Leafs on
Monday
night. Player props, overs, money line, puck line. This is going to be an all-out brawl for the Toronto Maple Leafs going up against the Chicago Blackhawks. Those are the waiver wire targets. Those are the picks and locks of the night for Monday. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. For your second listen, you have to go check out the Locked On NHL podcast. The link is in the description below, so you don't even have to go search for it. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. From both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with your weekly matchups. Make sure you get those must adds in for this week. Good luck with your bets out there, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Deuces.